Welcome to I5G Q&A. I'm Brendan.
I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
I'm the other Brendan.
Hi, other Brandon. I'm Jacob.
We've had a channel for three years now, and we've never had a Q&A, so I figured it was about time. So why don't we just start with the very first question here, if this works.
It will.
What's the story behind I5G's origin and name? Also, left Twix or right Twix?
Who wants to start?
I was incapacitated from the internet for this part because I was, stowed away at college. So I actually I have an idea what the story is, but I don't know it too well. So someone else is gonna have to do this.
I wasn't here yet.
This is a question for Christian Steele because Kristen
Yes.
is the one who came up with the name. It was sort of a joke, which has now turned into a legitimate team name and a legitimate dynasty. So it started out as a joke. They decided to just call themselves the Indy 500 group because we were winning Indy 500s all the time. And now it is stuck in, and we are the Indy 500 group, but also ARCA Brake Weekly group.
We basically needed a combined a name for the combined effort, for a name for the Discord, and so it just said Indy 500 group, and it still says Indy 500 group. And then Zach basically like, oh, this is actually really funny. We just call ourselves I5G, and now it's like so banal, but like also kind of scary. You need to see those initials I5G. It just kind of stuck.
I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but there's an added funny part because I asked Steele if he wanted to work for Indy, and he basically told me to pound sand.
Told me the same thing.
And then Trina was able to make this happen, but through a different group of people to make this happen. I forget exactly how it went, but Steele definitely told me to pound sand.
I went to my actual team owner, Alex Simpson, and asked if I could join I5G and work together because they were working with, I believe, Kevin Ellis Jr. at the time. He said, I don't see why not. And he told Steele to let me in the team. And that's how I got on I5G, even though I'm technically a part of Apex Racing Team.
And then we just kind of all got dragged along. I think I was like one of the last to get invited to the server, actually, because I wasn't using Discord.
And now we're one big happy family.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, this was like Chris and I's third or fourth merger at this point.
Who are all the team members and what's their roles?
I mean, we introduced ourselves, so what are our roles, though? Drivers?
I mean, we're all drivers / crew chiefs. When one of us strikes out of a race, we usually jump on the virtual pit box to run fuel numbers and strategy. AJ Burton, who is not really here that much, is usually our designated fuel guy and strategist for the Indy 500s. Sorry, redacted 500s.
And whenever there's a race, we all just go around and help because we're all in the same Discord channel. So why not let someone else get the win?
In the immortal words of Mike Leach, swing your sword. I'd like to think of us as a collective of some sort of pirates because I really don't know what anybody's role is. I think we just kind of exist.
Whenever I'm watching, I just had OBS running, and I'm usually recording something in case something stupid happens, which inevitably happens in a lot of the Indy Open races we see. So yeah, that's my role. Chief Archivist.
When was your guys' first iRacing Indy 500 victory?
2013, which was now 10 years ago.
So about to say it depends.
But yeah, it depends which one you ask us. I can say 2013.
Of the current people, was I the first of those of us that are here?
Yeah.
Hashtag waving at you, Brandon and Chris. I did it first.
Yeah, our first Indy 500 win is actually from Supercars driver Brody Kostecki back in the IRA 5 IndyCar from 2013.
Those are the dark days. I hate that car.
What was your inspiration for ARCA Brake Weekly, and what was the group's response to the idea?
I don't know if I had a direct inspiration. I was just kind of bored. I was making these radioactive style videos of us doing IndyCar races and IndyCar leagues, and I was making it just for us so we could watch them and laugh because a lot of these races were not so great and a lot of stupid driving was happening. I was being told hey, these are too good, but they also have a lot of sensitive information that the other IndyCar teams on iRacing may not really like because we're rather frank with what we were saying. So I was looking for something else to do instead that didn't involve us, and I kind of just zeroed in ARCA because, well, it's ARCA and it's a meme. So I don't know, what did you guys think when I started? By the way, I didn't consult anyone on starting a YouTube channel just named after a team. I'll put that out there too.
I mean, I was begging you to put some of the Hell Let Loose clips on the internet for months.
That's right, yeah.
So there is a history there, but ARCA, I think, was you. I don't really remember how that got started other than we have clips we got to put online, man.
I will say I found out the team existed through those first videos, and eventually the IndyCar track guys when I started on IndyCar more. But I figured out that this was a thing because of those couple first Daytona videos in like August or September of 2020. I remember watching those because they popped up on the iRacing Reddit and I recommended, and I was like, oh, this is neat. This is very bad, but it's ARCA, so I expect.
Was there like one race that kicked it off? I don't remember if there was one that was like awful that we were spectating or not, but I vaguely remember that being the case.
Yeah, so what happened was, this is in 2020, so it's the COVID year. We're all staying up late because what else are we gonna do? And then Zach notices, we always just like spectate like bottom split races when we're bored. It's just like entertainment, as wrong as that sounds. And then Zach discovered ARCA was at Daytona for 20 laps, and we watched the bottom split race. I don't know if it was like the one I used for the first video, but it was like so bad. And Zach basically told me like, you have to make a video about this. Like you have to do a video. That's like how bad this was. He was the first person to say like, hey, you should make a radioactive video of this. And I did, and it kind of took off after that.
With the boom of ARCA Brake Weekly Esterly during COVID, did you expect it to become almost a mainstay series? Got you on YouTube?
Sort of. Kinda. I mean, I didn't think it'd go as long as it did. I thought it'd just like burn out very quickly because I thought there's only like so much car crashes I could show, but I think the charm behind it was that there's always like different people doing these races, and if it was only about like just the cars crashing, like that gets old really fast. Then I'm just making like car crash compilation videos, which I guess the real ones get a lot of views, but when it's sim racing, it can get kind of old. But then you have people who are acting kind of crazy, or maybe they're under the influence or something along those lines. And every race at that point seemed like it's just different from the next. And that's why it I think really took off, was there was almost a backstory of like character, so to speak. There's people who like show up in multiple episodes, not because they wanted to, just because I was there. So, I think that's what made it kind of stick around for 2 years, was that in particular. When I started, did I mean to like make fun of people? Not exactly, but it was kind of funny in that real kind of Schadenfreude way. But I realized like, well, it can actually be kind of, it was just like very wholesome at times too. Like it's a game where people are having fun. Like it doesn't matter how good you are or bad you are. If you're having fun, you're having fun. And a lot of those people are having fun, just accepting like, man, we're bottom split. This is bad, but at least we're surviving, kind of deal.
In my opinion, I think a not insignificant part of that was once ARCA Brake Weekly became like a kind of a bigger name, people were self-aware of the probability of being in the ARCA Brake Weekly split. And so that kind of fed into like a lot of like really cool situations or funny situations. That's just like me as, seeing it take off the way it did.
Yeah, I won't forget the first time watching a bottom split ARCA race, and someone in this bottom split ARCA race like, hey, have you guys heard this channel named Team 15G or I5G? Like they make videos of these bottom splits. I'm like, oh my god, it's kind of taking off.
The soundtrack to a lot of the BW videos is very interesting and sometimes eclectic. Is there a backstory on your choice of music?
It's pretty simple. It was royalty free and I could make money off of it. That's kind of like the crux of it. And there's a lot of it available, and there's a lot of classical music like you've heard before, but you don't know the title or you don't know who composed it. And I guess if you want to learn classical music that way, you could by watching those videos. And I always kind of had an interest in it. I was like never in band or anything, but I've always appreciated it. On occasion, I will listen to it just if I'm trying to relax. I've become much more of a fan of classical music than I ever was before, which is to say I enjoyed it, but not as much as I do now.
What is the coolest interaction you've ever had with someone either within the iRacing community or the IRL racing community that stemmed from ABW?
I've not had one happen like in person per se. No one's ever stopped me and be like, oh, you make ARCA Brake Weekly. Hasn't happened. It's weird that I'm kind of recognizable in that way. And it's for any of us like get in a session and yeah, they see those initials I5G. First thing they think of often is ARCA Brake Weekly, plus then the wins too. Eventually, the focus got there too, which is kind of what I wanted when I started ARCA Brake Weekly. I didn't think it'd take off as much as I wanted to help the team just get more visible. I don't think it's big-headed to say we're probably the most visible iRacing IndyCar team. I don't know. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had anything from ARCA Brake Weekly, but just from, iRacing stuff in general. Meeting up with people or that you've raced against for a while, enjoy the race together as hang out in person. That's always pretty fun.
Especially at an IndyCar race where you guys are all kind of like watching the same thing, but you're all pulling for different drivers, like it was at Indy this year. So sometimes you're mad, but it's all good fun in the end because you're actually just hanging out with people who like the same thing as you.
I don't know if it's the coolest interaction, but I think the funniest one is when me and Zach were in the line for the sim, the like R Factor 2 thing at Indy, and this guy was talking to us about the stuff that was going on in the IndyCar, and Zach and I just acted like we didn't know what he was talking about, and we both definitely knew what he's talking about. It was a very one-sided interaction, though.
I think the coolest thing at the start of ARCA Brake Weekly was seeing, I feel like the first big streamer who was like watching these on his stream was Casey Kerwin. That was kind of mind-blowing of like, this is a guy who has, you know, a very big audience and he finds it funny. Also, the time Summit watched the ARCA Brake Weekly Daytona video when I don't know how many videos he had, but I was like, oh shit, everyone's gonna know this now.
Why did they call it oven when you oven the cold food? About hot eat the food.
I don't know what this means.
Did someone put this for Google Translate like 200 times and then come back out in English?
Yeah, why do you call it oven when you oven the cold food?
My only question
And then you
is,
oven out the hot food?
why do they call it a driveway when you drive on the parkway?
It's a great question, Matt.
But I back out of the way too. Like,
The answer is always yes.
make sure to preheat your oven before you put the cold up in the oven and whatever.
Objective form.
I don't have a good answer to the question, but I like the question.
Do any of you have more aspiration to race pro-an or have race pro IRL? Are we ever getting any more crew chief Harry videos? Answer me please, driver. Why is Kentucky Fried Chicken the superior fast food?
The better question might be, how many of you have driven real life?
Brandon probably doesn't remember it, but he and I, we were in quarter midgets at the same time, at the same tracks. I don't really think ever against each other head to head. Maybe, probably. Had to have at some point. But yeah, we're in quarter midgets for a few years and looked around at getting into like modifieds and stuff. Really only stuck around in quarter midgets.
Yeah, I started out quarter midgets for 12 years and then moved up to Legend Cars in New Jersey for a couple years. And everybody knows how expensive racing is. And if you don't have money or sponsorship, you don't really get anywhere. So I moved to North Carolina to stay in the racing industry. But I've never really gone pro per se in racing, but I do have a little bit of racing experience.
Yeah, it was, to Brandon's point, the option was basically college or racing, and college was an infinitely more sustainable option. So yeah, it's a bear.
I never got a chance to, but I would love to take my car to a track day one day. That's the plan.
Yeah, I've had no aspirations to ever become a professional race car driver. Honestly, it's a dangerous sport, and I'm kind of a risk-averse person, so that was not something was ever really interested in as a kid. I liked watching it, but I never wanted to do it. That being said, now, once you're older, I think you start caring less. If someone was like, hey, you want to drive this race car? I'd probably be like, yeah, sure. Would I be very fast? No, but I probably wouldn't say no.
I feel like if I do anything from this point, it'll be like 24 hours of lemons or something fun.
That would be awesome.
It's more for fun than being competitive about it.
Probably the most competitive I would ever even look into is like a Grid to Life track day time attack event. Like, at least because I can use my engineering degree in some car form or fashion.
Oh man, I would love to go into like dirt racing or something, like a weekly track Saturday night. That'd be a blast. Total blast. Totally a waste of money, but a blast.
Matt, are we getting more Crew Chief Harry videos?
I don't know on that one, driver.
Is that like when you shake the 8-ball and it says ask later?
Yeah, you have about as many odds of a Crew Chief Harry video as like my old Italian grandpa, voice acting videos. So I mean, I don't know how much time I'll have to be online. So I mean, it's really kind of a toss-up, but you know what they say, you can get anything anyway.
This last question is here just to troll me. Do any of you actually like KFC?
It's finger looking good, come on.
No, I used to like it, but KFC Taco Bell chains are prevalent in my area and they're really, really bad. So I just don't go. I one time got a Dr. Pepper and it was clear. So never again.
Excuse my French.
What?
Excuse my French, but does the Colonel shit in the woods? In the words of Colonel Sanders, I'm too drunk to taste this chicken. In the words of drunk, I'm too Colonel Sanders to taste this chicken. And in the words of drunk, I'm too chicken to taste this Colonel.
I mean, it's all right.
I'm okay with fried chicken. I'm just not okay with KFC. That just makes me sick every time I go.
Who are your racing heroes and have you met them in meat space?
When I showed
What
these
is meat
questions,
space?
Chris didn't know what meat space meant, and I guess Brandon doesn't either.
I don't either.
Do I want to know?
It's just like in the flesh.
Oh,
So why don't you just say in person?
I
thought
didn't
say
ask the
meat space and be
question.
weird about it. Who wrote that?
I thought they meant to write Metaspace, and I was like, no?
Never in the Metaspace.
Is that the meta version of real life?
So I was very lucky as a kid. My mother worked in a company that had a pretty big NASCAR sponsorship deal, early 2000s. They were filming a commercial in Florida. My mother's colleague was really good friends with Jeff Gordon's PR guy. And so they flew us down to Miami for the commercial shoot. I didn't know it was up until I'm in the garage that morning in January, and everybody's like, yeah, you're meeting Jeff Gordon. I'm like, I'm doing what? And then I started freaking out. Dale Jarrett came over to try to calm me down. But I was a big Dale Jarrett fan too, so that only made me go a little bit crazier. So my parents had to like get Dale away from me. I was like 6 years old. And so then I finally got like a whole photo shoot with Jeff Gordon, like after the commercial shoot was over. So then fast forward to the 2007 Cup Series finale. I'm still a huge Jeff Gordon fan. And the same person that we know had arranged a Meet Jimmy Johnson at his motorhome the morning of the race. And in my infinite wisdom, I showed up in a Jeff Gordon hat the morning he was racing Jeff Gordon for the championship. He stole my hat and didn't give it back to me until we were done at his RV. Great guy though, great guy, but didn't like the Gordon hat.
Matt and I also got to meet Graham Rahal at Pocono one year. I just happened to be looking for Matt in the garage at the same time that he was like going into the garage stall of Rahal's car with someone, and the two other people who were supposed to be there didn't show up, so my dad and I just tagged along. We didn't really talk to him, we were just like explaining the steering wheel and like pointing at the car.
Funniest thing with that was, number one, how random it was we ran into each other at that moment. But it was also the fact that, remember Mary?
Yep.
Chris and I were not 18 at the time, and so we couldn't go into a hot pit race day morning. It just happened that Mary was Mary Bignati, and if you know IndyCar, that's George Bignati's daughter. George Bignati being AJ Foyt's chief mechanic. And so the credential person's like, if they don't have a credential, I can't let them in. And she's basically, shut the hell up, they're with me, go do something else, which is absolutely hilarious.
I also got to talk to Romain Grosjean very briefly after the Mid-Ohio 2022 race where him and Rossi had big beef. I had gotten that as like a verbal deal with R8G to run their paint scheme in the iRacing fixed Indy 500. I decided I'd go over to the garage just to see if he was around, just to like say thanks for the pass. But he was just out talking to fans, like was like pretty happy about things, and I wasn't expecting that at all because they were pretty angry with each other after that race.
My hero is Tony Stewart, probably because that's who my dad was a fan of, and I actually met him when I was 7 at a motorsports trade show, and little 7-year-old me was so excited to meet him and get this hood signed by him where it has a picture of a polar bear holding a Coca-Cola bottle. I was so excited to get that signed by him and tell him that I'm a race car driver, and he said, and I quote, "You will make it to NASCAR Cup Series one day. You just gotta try hard enough." Boy, was he wrong. I have not made it to the Cup Series. Although I have made it to the Cup Series. Maybe, you know what?
Maybe
He's
you didn't
right.
try hard
Still
enough.
right in
No,
a roundabout way.
He's
Yeah.
right. He was absolutely right because I have pitted in the Cup Series for a couple years now. So Tony Stewart, thank you. You made my dreams come true.
You were even mentioned on TV during a cup race.
I was.
Yeah, you got called
Beautiful.
Rob
That.
Traina though.
That was the Texas weekend.
Because I'm pretty
Like-
sure that's why Kligerman was talking about you.
Like you got suspended from trucks and you were pitting for 2 cup teams. It was like all the same weekend.
No, I think that was 2 separate ones.
Oh, okay.
The 2 trucks, or the 2 Cup cars was one year. The next year was the truck, because it was like 3 races from the end of the year, and I couldn't pit Daytona the next year because I was still suspended. But yes, Parker Kligerman called me Rob Traino on national TV, and then apologized on Twitter for it, so thanks, Parker.
Hey, Jacob and Chris, does the angry Sebastian Bourdais 2 miles away from the Nashville race after the race out?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Heartbroken Sebastian
That
Bourdais.
was
We didn't know who he
that was so funny. Well, it starts off with we had no idea what happened in the race at all.
Yeah.
And so we left the race and we're walking back to our Airbnb. And I'm pretty sure that we're walking past someone who's coming from the other direction, so like walking towards the track, who looks exactly like Sebastian Bourdais.
Yep.
Which didn't make any sense because he was racing. I didn't realize that he got like crashed out immediately.
The only
So he was
thing
just
I
like
saw-
walking around in street clothes for a while, I guess.
Yeah. The only thing I saw Sebastian Bourdais that day was his rear wing hanging off and going into the pits. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm sure he's fine, but it's Nashville. You can't see anything.
We were like a mile from the track too. It was like pretty far.
We were almost home. I personally have not met any race car driver that I kind of like, was like my favorite. Like my favorite was always Casey Kane for NASCAR, but I've never had a chance to like meet him or really any other IndyCar NASCAR driver for that matter.
Yeah, I've never met any racing driver as in like at a meet and greet, but I would probably say one of the only few drivers I like kind of actively root for is AJ Allmendinger, and I was really following the 2006 Champ Car season when he got let go from his team, and then Forsyth hired him, and then he went on a tear the rest of the year and thought he was going to be American Open Wheel Racing's next great hope, and then his team owner lowballed him, and he went to NASCAR, where he made a bunch more money.
We were in Baltimore, and I was sitting there eating some chicken tenders in the convention center that was the paddock. And I turn around, and my dad is in the Ganassi hauler being all buddy-buddy with Chip Ganassi, having no idea who Chip Ganassi was. And, like, he comes out of there, he's like, hey, Matt, that guy was awesome. He knew everything about the sport. Was really happy to talk to me. Answered a lot of questions. You know how expensive this stuff is? And I'm like, Dad, you have no idea who you're talking to, do you? He's like, no, I just figured he was a sponsor. I'm like, no, Dad, he owned the fucking team. Like, he was the team owner. Like, that is Chip Ganassi.
Aside from the Indy 500s, what other event that takes place on iRacing do you all try and prepare for and try to compete for? A win, i.e. Daytona 50, Spa 24, etc.
Hope it's not the Daytona 50. That's a typo on my part.
Well, it's been Daytona 50 for me the past 2 years.
Daytona like 5 for Matt. I like this year that we got to celebrate every milestone that Matt got further than other previous years. And all the milestones were within like 10 laps. Like the first one was like, congratulations, you made it past the first lap.
Yep. Oh yeah, because the last 2 years I got wrecked either at the start and finish line or on the first lap. And then the year that Brandon won that one split, I got wrecked in turn 2 of lap 1. So it's been a trend, man.
You actually finished this time. It was great.
Yeah, it was 15 of 16 incidents. I had to back off the pack and hope no one wrecked.
I would say team-wide, we always try and do like the Daytona 24, which we ran earlier this year, and like the big endurance events. We were doing a lot of sports car racing in 2020 because there's that whole series that had 6-hour enduros at places like Road America, which is in a video. So we like the big-time enduro races, and I always try and do the Daytona 500. And this year I finally actually finished all 500 miles and not have my car get destroyed. So that was awesome.
I know for me, the walk in 6 hours was like the first event I ever did with anybody on a team with steel. And we didn't win back 2 years ago, but we did win this year, which was really, really nice.
Daytona 24, this is going to sound like heresy, but I honestly get more enjoyment out of that race than I do the 500, just because like the 500 is a lot of work, and Daytona 24 is just like, we have a spreadsheet and we just kind of have a good time with it. Like years ago, I used to do like the top split endurance stuff back when it wasn't that big of a deal, so it's just like Daytona 24 is just such a blast, honestly.
Any 24-hour race is a good time.
There was one spot 24 where Matt and I tried to do it ourselves, just the two of us. We got like most of the way through before I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and the car was destroyed.
Chris had just handed me the car like an hour before. I had been stuck at like a family reunion. This was not planned. Like it was supposed to be every 2 hours we take the had
Yeah, and I just driven for 10 hours straight.
I texted Chris, I'm like, dude, you're going to have to do the Lord's work. So in return, I was going to have to do a 10-hour stint. This is when I went from like an A license down to a C license with the off tracks I was taking.
Yeah, you were going like 30 feet off the racing line to pass people.
We'll get there later. There is a GT3 car reversing across the track at the top of Eau Rouge, because that's the best way to take your car after a wreck, is to reverse perpendicular to the flow of traffic on a blind crest. Wherever that guy is, I hope he still thinks about that, because that was earth-shatteringly dumb. Like, I pray for that man.
What is your personal favorite track to race the ******* car at on iRacing?
I'm kind of biased, but mine is Road America because I grew up near it.
Recent history for me there aside, Pocono. Sorry, Trina.
Why are you apologizing to me?
Because I crashed you.
Oh, right.
He almost forgot, Jacob. Now no one remembers.
Well, I bought him Dr. Pepper, so hopefully he made up for it.
I got to go with Pocono just because I grew up going there, and it was like, I don't know, I went there from when I was 6 to when I was 20 every year, almost every year. And then for some reason, I love the way it races. That just helps. Like Pocono is the best track for an IndyCar on the entire service.
Gotta go with Indianapolis, but then Pocono's definitely a close second, though.
Mr. Brick?
I'm thinking.
Between which ones?
Well, the obvious one's Indy. Like that's a given. But I'm trying to think of like the old version of Texas when the car first became the IR18, when you had to be really, really aggressive with saving tires. I felt I was really good at that. I feel like I'm really good at tracks in general where you have to save tires. So like old Texas, Chicagoland a couple of years ago used to be really tire wear heavy. Probably Indy is number 1, old Texas 2, Milwaukee number 3. even though we didn't ask for 3. You got 3.
For all, what is the most iconic moment in I5G history? Love the videos?
Why did it say that as a question? That's an exclamation point at the end.
Love the videos? Question mark?
Sounds so backhanded.
I know you are. What am I?
We may all have different answers, but I think for me, it's when Brandon won Indy in 2020, when that was the most viewed iRacing Indy 500 ever on YouTube. I forget how many people were watching live, watching Brandon win that race. In that same race, I finished like dead last, so however many people were watching that race also witnessed me basically have my worst race I ever had in top split.
I haven't really been involved with too many races since, the whole fiasco, whatever's happened over the last year, but 2022 500, us finishing 1, 2, 3 with 4 cars in the top 5, I feel was really, really special. And I know a lot of people watched that online, and that was the last, as of now, broadcasted 500. And also, I remember watching the 2020 race as well on Scotty McLaughlin and seeing everybody work together and seeing, Trina win the race over by however close of a margin was.
I have a tough time with this. Just I know Brandon and Brendan, you've been here longer than I have, but it's coming on how many years is it? 7, 8 years of me being here. So I feel like there's been a lot of moments where kind of in terms of impact, I definitely have to say 2020. That was the Mecca Indy 500. Everybody was just putting so much work into that because what else were we gonna do for those 2 months? And then of course, Facebook had hundreds of thousands of impact of at least people that scrolled through it. YouTube had a bunch of views. I'd have to, even though my race ended in shambles in a turn 2 wall on lap 105, I'd have to go with that. But there's been a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think the obvious one for me is 2020 as well. Being sponsored by Rahal Letterman Lighting and Racing, for them to dip their toes into the esports world. They eventually moved over to the Apex racing team for a couple of seasons with the PESC series with Zach. That's been a cool relationship to have. But with all the people watching, finally to break the spell of nobody winning 2 Indy 500s, let alone back-to-back, was pretty cool. There's a fun story about that, or a fun fact actually. If COVID didn't happen, I would have never been able to race because COVID shut down the NASCAR series and delayed me pitting in the Cup series. So I ended up winning that race on Saturday, then going to Darlington to pit the Cup race on Sunday. So in a way, thanks COVID. As bad as that is to say, if COVID didn't happen, the eyes on that race alone would have never happened. The little history that I have never would have happened either, to win 3 in a row the following year. So 2020 for sure, and then 2022 was the last year, right?
Yeah, that was the last year.
Yeah, so 2022 being the one where we went 3 for 3. It was pretty cool as well. No, 2021. 2022
Yeah.
I got wrecked. Yeah, okay. So 2021, sorry. I've won too many, I've lost count. Anyway, it happens. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I'd have to say the 2020 or 2021. And I think it was even said in the commentary for Arjuna or whoever was commentating that one of the sort of the impact that we've had on that race with so many eyes on it for so many years. I think that really sort of cements things.
What is the biggest wreck you have either seen or been a part of? Love the content.
I think it was right when New Damage Model came out, or it just came out for the ARCA car. I think it was in the first round of New Damage Model. Either way, there was a hostess session, and there were 40 people in this hostess session. In the race, there was a giant pileup into the bus stop. I think it was 20 cars.
Oh,
And it was the first time that I had seen the New Damage Model in a race situation with a lot of cars, and it looked very good, and it was also very funny. I spent the next hour just looking at the wreck over and over again.
Britton, we got through that wreck.
Yeah, I made it through.
That's
You
a-
made it through too.
I just want to say, I threw javelin in high school and they told me I could never be a pole vaulter. But in that wreck, I lived out my dream.
I have a great video of that wreck. I don't know, it's probably I can't really remember specifically, but there's been some practice crashes for certain Indy races where my computer's almost crashed because there's so many flying car bits in one corner of the Indy track. That's really about it. I don't really remember the wrecks too much because I just kind of walked away.
So it probably wasn't the biggest wreck I've ever been part of, but it's the most memorable big wreck I can think of was Matt and I were doing an NIS Talladega race in it was the May race in 2020. 20 laps to go, 10 laps to go, so everyone's driving really, really hard and everyone's packed together. I'm in the middle of it and they start wrecking. I got nowhere I can go. There's nothing I can do. And Matt's in the back of the pack. He's just he just screams out over the mic, I'm not lifting, I'm not lifting, I'm not lifting. And there's a really old Twitch clip of it somewhere. And he doesn't lift, he just runs the high line as like everyone's sliding down like Days of Thunder style. And he just gets past the whole thing and he's just laughing maniacally.
We're not lifting.
Say hi, brakes.
Yep. Yeah, I have that. I have a. I saved that. I videotaped that to flex on all the haters that I don't have, and I saved it for Snapchat memories. And so I have the crappy mom get the camera video of that one. Bounced off wall and everything. It was phenomenal, man. Like I heard Bald Eagle screaming in my ear. Like, you know, the Top Gun theme was going. Tom Cruise was waving. So was Rowdy Burns. They were like waving like the like Abraham Lincoln and the alligator and Happy Gilmore. It was a whole thing.
Oh, nice. That's why he left.
You're gonna drink it or you're just gonna open it?
I'm gonna drink it first.
Okay.
I don't have a very big wreck that I can recall.
Well, we were talking about this one the other night. Are you still mad about Mid-Ohio 16th Street 2016 where I just netcoded you?
I would be more mad about the barber incident.
That's what I said. I predicted that. For those that are unaware, I threw the world's heftiest block on like lap 3 at Barber.
It was on the initial start. All the way down to the pit wall.
No, it was a lap after. It might have been lap 2, but I'd gotten value on lap 1, and then I botched the whole last sector and plunked into the wall and back. It was vicious. It was uncalled for.
All right, well, speaking of vicious crashes.
How many times have you intentionally wrecked someone on iRacing?
I don't know if I have like a numerical value for that.
I'm not very good at wrecking people, so I'm going to say 0.
Officially once. I did intent wreck someone in a C-Fix race at Kentucky in like 2013. I was protesting and got a warning. I may or may not have had other instances since. Statute of limitations has passed, so I wrecked someone once at the LA Coliseum on purpose. Also C-Fixed. I'm just a menace in C-Fixed.
I think in an official race, I've only intentionally wrecked someone twice, and it was in the same race. It was the season that the Rallycross cars came out, and the series at the time was called GRC. It was like Global Rallycross or whatever. That was like the sponsor for it. It was like the Wild West of like iRacing at that point because the dirt stuff had just come out, so everyone was in there, and because it's Rallycross cars, you're just dooring each other. It was a kill or be killed moment.
I'll take the 5th on if I've done it recently. But this is like confession. So back when I was like a 12 or 13-year-old, this was right after Tony Stewart had right-hooked Kyle Busch at Daytona. And that had happened a few years in a row. So in my young mind, that was how you won at Daytona. in like 2011 or 2012, I got my C-Fix license for like Martinsville. And the next week or 2 weeks after was Daytona. And I found myself in P2 on the last lap, and I lined this guy up all before, got to his outside. And we threw that thing hard to port. To his infinite credit, he never protested me. I just said, sorry, man, got loose. But I knew what I did, and 11 years later, I carry the scars of that incident with me.
Is everyone else taking the Fifth Amendment?
I decline to comment on that question, Senator. I did not intentionally wreck that car.
What car?
Okay.
Okay.
Speaking of intentional things,
What is the Pawelski doctrine exactly?
let it rip, Matt.
Oh man. So I want to preface this by saying this is gonna sound like some sort of like drugs or alcohol commercial. Don't do it. Don't. It's mean. If you do it, the other guy's gonna get mad at you, and he'll be correct in being mad at you. Basically, it's the doctrine where if you are in a multi-class race and a car in a different class is in front of you and slowing you up and or being enough of a menace, you should, instead of waiting for the inevitable wreck, just ship them and do it with as little damage as possible to either party. If you do it at Spa, perfect. If you do it at Daytona, do it in turn 1 of the road course. Find some runoff and ship them. But I've only ever done it once, and the whole point of it is that you just minimize whatever damage or incidents you're about to get from being around this driver. Like, that's the best way I can put it. Sometimes being the first one of the trigger is the best thing to do.
Will you respond to this question as if I just asked the question you wanted someone to ask, but nobody did, and now you have an excuse to answer it?
Yeah, I do.
Who is the laziest member of the team?
Yeah, I'll volunteer. I've never really had much time to practice after 2016, so I just kind of show up and I'm like, hey guys, what's up? I try to be active on Discord and be friendly, but I don't know the first thing about setting up cars, so I'm like that like inflatable wavy dude at the local used car dealership, you know? That's kind of what I am. They just kind of plug me in and I just kind of go all over the place.
Man, I feel like I'm pretty lazy sometimes, especially since my senior year of college last year. I kind of just couldn't do anything else. I couldn't just go to school and come home, oh, there's the race to run. I guess I can try my best here.
God rest his soul, it's Mike. Hasn't done anything in a very long time.
It's cold.
Are you still mad over your dog statue that you set on fire? Is that what this is about?
No, that was actually
He
pretty
might
funny.
be mad about the betrayal in Hong Kong.
So we had a community Minecraft server just like amongst us. This is 9 years ago now. I had like 50 to 60 like dogs I had bred in my house. I did some kind of transgression against him because he burned my house down with like all the dogs in them. Like there's only like 2 survivors. So as a memorial, I built a giant dog statue to commemorate the murder of these dogs. And what he does is he desecrates it, he vandalizes it by placing a bucket of lava at its rear end. And yeah, that's what he did.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, that's what he did. That's what he did. I was more mad about the dogs dying than him desecrating the statue.
Unfortunately, Mike is no longer with us, but he gave us some really good memories and was a really great guy when he was around.
It was like the week leading up to the Daytona 24. I don't remember how this came up. We were talking about rockets, and then we got into the argument over whether you needed oxygen or not. And I kept arguing that you didn't because you just needed an oxygenator, which doesn't have to be oxygen. And Mike just kept sending voice memos where he was shouting. I don't know why he just didn't type them out, but it was funnier that they was yelling at them.
Jacob wiped the shit out of Brandon recently. Now there is a story where Mike was military dude, heck of a temper. I went into the corner, lap 1, turn 1 at Iowa. 2014, 2015, quickly realized as I went to the bottom that, I'm not making the turn. And Mike was on my outside and all I could just say was, watch out. I just yelled, watch out, and cleaned him out at the grandfather clock. I don't think he talked to me for like 3 months afterwards.
To this day, he probably still doesn't forgive you.
No, that was an unforgivable incident.
If you had to choose only one series to race and master for the rest of your time on iRacing, no matter the changes of the car or physics, what would it be and why?
NASCAR Cup Car, Coke Series. I would not have to work a day in my life ever again, as long as iRacing existed.
If this was a few years ago, I would have said IndyCar, but I don't like how it drives in most of the oval tracks anymore. The answer is IndyCar anyway, because that's really the only car that I drive most of the time anyway. I at least enjoyed it at Indianapolis still, and some of the oval tracks like Pocono or Milwaukee or Richmond, only a handful of them.
Yeah, I would have to say the same because I still drive the IndyCar almost every single week in leagues, and that's some money I can get. And if I can get a lot better at that, that's easier money.
I'd have to say for me, some sort of stock car like the 87 or the B class, or maybe. Well, I can't say Coke Series because I'm of the opinion that anything that happened in NASCAR after 2003 is an affront to God. But honestly, the stock cars are kind of where I came from on iRacing before I ended up somehow running the Lotus 79 for a few years and somehow finding my way into IndyCar. But yeah, definitely some sort of stock car because as long as those things drive with time off throttle, you're driving it the way that God intended.
I don't really have a series, but I would like to master the road series. Like road racing in general, I'd like to master. I have a decent amount of pace, but whenever I compare myself to like a Kevin Ellis Jr. or Peter Berryman, there's like 2 or 3 tenths in the laps, every single lap that I just cannot find. Even when you look at the data, you can see where it is, but I just can't replicate it. The pace that those guys have in the PASC series, and even just like the GT3 special events, is just, it's mind-boggling.
Team I5G has just committed the most notorious art heist of all time, swiping the Mona Lisa from the Louvre in broad daylight. Chris hears a siren approaching at a rapid pace. A security guard must have triggered a silent alarm. Which Team 1-5G member do you choose as the Getaway Driver?
Max Bebel.
It's not me.
Anybody with traffic driving experience, so I'm out of the question.
Well, that leaves 3 really good candidates who have used a particular maneuver on the highway.
Are you referring to the Jersey Shuffle?
The Jersey
Or
Slide?
no, the Jersey Slide?
Slide, baby.
I'm gonna have to go with Chris because he drives with a lot of control. If like my life is on the line, which I don't think they're gonna shoot us just for stealing the portrait. I think they're just trying to arrest us, right? According to this question. So, but like if our lives are on the line, I'd give it to Matt because I don't know. But Chris is in control when he drives.
Well, it is the most notorious art heist of all time, so you don't know what the response is going to be.
That's
The
true.
French might be really mad about the loss of the Mona Lisa. We got to take that into consideration.
I'm putting Trino in the driver's seat.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate
You're welcome.
that.
I don't want to drive. You can drive.
I'll drive.
I
I
think
would
it'd
feel
be
fairly
fun.
confident. I would feel fairly confident in my abilities.
It would be fun if it went well.
Oh, absolutely.
If it didn't go well, it would not be fun.
So this is the lightning round of just kind of random questions that didn't really fit into what you should know about the team, or we're just kind of really out there. So we're gonna answer these as fast as we can.
Do any of you remember the first instance you got ARCA braked?
Don't remember. Happened too many times. It's sim racing.
Nope. I do not remember.
Nope, don't remember. Happened too many times with sim racing.
The earliest I remember is in Bristol C6, someone didn't brake for 2 corners and just ran into the back of me and murdered me. Like 2014.
Do any of you remember the first instance you got ARCA baked?
What's that supposed to mean?
ARCA Baked. I'm scared about what that entails.
I decline to comment on this question.
Is this? Never mind. Never mind.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
No.
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 I really don't care, do you?
I'm not that big of a pizza person, so I don't care.
I got enough New Jersey in me to know. No.
I'm obligated to say no, so no.
Who would win in a fight, John Rambo or John Wick?
Rambo. If you've seen the first movie, he had nothing to lose. You don't want to fight someone who has nothing to lose. It's Rambo.
John Wick didn't have anything to lose either, considering the whole point of the first movie is it took away everything he had to lose.
Oh, that makes it tough then.
Knowing what I know about each series, I'm gonna decline to comment.
Yeah, me too.
Because if you know each series, there's an answer here. Especially if you've seen the most recent movie in each, there's an answer here.
What are some bucket list races for any, all of the I5G crew to attend?
I'd have to say Long Beach Grand Prix. It's like the most prominent American street course.
I personally have not. I've always wanted to go to Daytona 500 because I grew up a NASCAR fan, but more recently, since I was like a teenager, I've always wanted to go to Bathurst for the 1000. Since I've gone to Indy now, that's my next like bucket list race to go to.
I've been to Sebring before. I think I was like 14 or 15 when I went. I didn't know what Sebring as an idea entailed. Like not the race, but kind of the ephemeral idea of Sebring. So I'd have to pick Sebring and I would have to bring a whole tent and several kegs of beer and just make like, if you've never been to Sebring, the best way I can describe Sebring is if you went there with enough charisma and a big enough trashed like school bus, you could start a cult.
I remember on the broadcast, I think it was this year's broadcast, it was like on the quote on WAP, there's just like a fire in the infield. They just paid no attention to it.
Yeah, like
I think it was like a couch or something, but there's someone set something on fire in the infield. I don't know if I'll ever go, but Lamar would be really cool to go to.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah, or Nords.
I would like to go to the Daytona 24. Monaco would be pretty cool. From what I've heard, Monaco doesn't seem really practical. There's not much you could see. The Daytona 24 is probably going to happen in a couple years for me.
Would you bring back Oval Week for PCC?
Yes.
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 It's better than
Hashtag bring
Monza
back
Junior.
Oval Week.
At iRacing Super Speedway, absolutely.
Yes.
Monza Junior was almost a Belleville.
Or New Atlanta.
New Atlanta.
What if we settle for Mid Ohio all oval? Because it has some right and left turns in
What
it.
about the one with the chicane?
I think
it's the all oval.
Oval, yeah.
They use RNG scheduling, so maybe it'll pop up.
Do you eat bananas with or without the wrapper?
What?
Without.
I don't eat bananas.
What's a banana?
Yes, sir. We have no bananas.
Quick Trip Root Beer Milk.
No. Not drinking it.
I-
It has like 280 calories per bottle. I have a figure to maintain.
Quick Trip root beer milk.
I gotta be honest. I like Quick Trip a lot. I spent a lot of time up in Wisconsin. If Quick Trip approves it, I approve it. Doesn't mean I'm gonna drink it, but I approve it.
Oh, this is a legit thing.
It's real. Yeah, I saw it for the
Root beer
first time the other day.
flavored milk. Okay.
I'm told it tastes like a root beer float.
I am curious, but I do not believe I have a Quick Trip around me.
On behalf of the U.S. government, can we extend your car's extended warranty?
No.
No.
I think I'm good. Thanks.
Honestly, man, I drive a Volkswagen. Anything can go wrong with those, so I'd consider it.
I drive a Subaru. My car really should be blown up by now.
For all the drivers in I5G, name a race that you have won that was the most memorable.
I was talking about this just before we started. I didn't win the race per se, but I didn't win anything in this.
You won the
specific
war.
season. I won the war. Yeah, I won the championship by not winning any races. Like 16th Street, 2015, 2016. Like the 2016 Indy 500 was really cool because it was like, it's the marquee race of the community. But 16th Street was cool because I got to take my dog to McDonald's after I won the championship. I don't know, man. Like that was kind of boss, bringing your pooch to McDanks with you. I don't know. That was fun.
For me, it's the 2022 Indy Elite race at Mid-Ohio. It was the first like actual broadcasted race I won as on the team, even though it had been a couple months. But I did not expect to win that race and kind of just fell into my lap. And thanks to an excellent strategy by everybody else on the team to help me get it, that was a pretty good day.
I have to go 2017 iRacing Indy 500. Was running up front all day. Some admittedly not great calls at the end. Man, I had to drive through a bunch of cars and get a bunch of lucky cautions, but it was a very exciting finish. Got to make the pass coming to the start finish line to win.
I guess for me, I won 8 Indy 500 in 2017. It wasn't the broadcast split like Chris's. It was later in the evening, but I won an official iRacing Indy 500. I don't go around saying that, but it's probably the coolest thing I've won in the sim for sure.
I mean, the obvious is the Indy 500s. Again, back to our 2020 history. How many people were watching? Just the time period in the world, and everything going all the time. Most memorable races, just from a team aspect of how fast our car was and how we pretty much had the top 7 positions for 90% of the race. Was it 2021 that we led 199 of 200 laps?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, any final thoughts?
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, we didn't plan this at all. I didn't know how we were supposed to end it. I just appreciate all of you supporting us and watching us through the years and cheering us on in races, and I think that's the most exciting part about all of this is teams like us don't really get the platform, and that's really awesome for me because I didn't think it was gonna kind of grow to like what it did. So I think we can all say we're very thankful for all of you who watch and subscribe and on all of our platforms.
You can't see it, but I'm nodding what Brennan just said.
Thanks, Matt.
Not a problem, bud.
Thanks again for watching, and if you have other questions, I'll answer some of them in the comments down below. Thanks a lot.